Think we get addicted to rage?
Oh, sure. That's what the media is trying to get you to do. It's the low hanging fruit when it's telling you that you can't control yourself. Really? When you go into school, when I went in, one of the first things they teach you is sit down and shut up, control yourself. Self control is the apex of evolution. You have to learn to control yourself in one way or another. And if you cannot, you got to figure it out or there's going to be consequences.
It goes back to what you say about how we're all addicted to something. So self control is required in order to not allow us to slip into those.
I think that's part of it. No doubt you've heard me repeat that phrase over and over to stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. If I stay in my lane, then I do fine. Certainly. I mean, when we're driving, but more frequently applied to your everyday life. So, I mean, what the heck am I talking about? Wouldn't it be exciting, though, to cross lines and go where no man has gone before? We test the limits. We're charging to our karmic account these vices and adventures offered outside of our lane. Very tempting. But here's the deal, folks. I find that it took me decades to uncover my own personal boundaries. This is boundaries. This is where you stop and somebody else starts. It's your line in the sand. To learn my personal boundaries with people and events. In other words, I have to stay in my lane because it works for me. And that lane offers me learned behaviors and knowledge of how I can have safety and enjoyment and peace of mind if and when I'm aware of where I stand on things and what people are toxic to me and just get away from them. What have I found that's healthy for my life? That's a boundary. That's part of you. Who are you? Part of adulting, I think, and that's the verb, capital A, adulting, is to discern who we are and what's good for us. Addictions live outside of those boundaries. Addiction, it's not really the real issue, but we use the drug to talk to the issue. We skate around the issue by using the drug to converse with it. Well, I was drunk and that was alcohol talking. No, alcohol doesn't have a voice, neither does eating a box of donuts. It doesn't have a voice. That's us talking to the issue using the pleasure centers of our brain. So, my addictions are research and exercise. I mean, does that sound weird or harmful? I mean, they're actually healthy and beneficial behaviors if I don't overdo it. But I learned that because it keeps my monkey mind from taking off into boundaryless jungles. But I choose not to drink. I have 30 years in Codependency Anonymous, which was my real addiction. But I did binge drinking. I didn't need to do binge drinking, but that was me talking to my addiction. You see, it was just crazy. But I don't drink because it's a neurotoxin. I just don't. I'm not going to get into that. And I don't choose to take drugs because I prefer to at least try to live with awareness. If there was a drug, I can tell you right now that was going to keep me in right now, in the permanent now all the time, I'd take it. But there is one. It's called detachment. Maitreya, the world teacher, says the greatest drug is detachment. Because what have we done when we detach? We got the emotional body out of the way. If I can take my focus, my emotion, and remember, God knows if I do it 2 out of 10 times, it helps. If I remember, focus right in between the eyebrows. That's your sixth skill, your sixth chakra. That is your ajna center. It is part of where your intuition lives. It's your mental. It will take you out of emotion. It'll take you out of it.
That's something you can get better with meditation and that awareness that where your boundaries are lacking.
I think so. And I think I want to read to y'all, as we did last week, part of one of my books, The Reality Pirate's Guide to Your Paranormal Normal. Starts on page 77. And I just opened this when I asked, what should we talk about? And darn if it wasn't healing, addiction, and recovery. So we are a stressed and avoidant society. I myself voted in medical marijuana in both Washington and Montana. It's a miracle drug and a magnificent alternative to some of the heavier ones, sometimes. My husband has a correct assessment of this when he says that we need to isolate the beneficial aspects of marijuana into a pill so that we can titrate it and know exactly what we're getting, how we're getting it, and when to take it. How many prescriptions say go home and grow this drug and take as much as you want, whenever you want? So, I mean, we'll work through this, but it's where we are. I occasionally observe the permanently stoned workers and parents and students around town. I psychically see, I really do see a blue fog around the heads of people that are stoned. With 60% of the diet in this country consumed as chemical fake food and prepared meals, our neurology craves just one more fix of something to maintain that avoidant mindset. So we're a drug. We're a drug society. We're terminally online, and the terminally online addiction certainly creeps into my life. It's slinky and skillful. I claim, though, my Neptunian mindset of an addict. I think my addiction is addiction itself. I'm an artist. We can be wackadoodle on addictions. I mean, come on. Addiction to the transmitters is produced when I'm addicted to a behavior and I avoid a conscious mindset. My brain is shooting out neurotransmitters into the body. So 2 weeks ago, I intuited that I had become one of the terminally online population, ordering cool stuff online, dosed me with the comfort of endorphins. I was healthfully creating through nature and silence, but the same kind of endorphins to ordering useless crap on the internet. As an addict's addict, I am cross addicted to not being addicted to my online circus. Now, I'm practicing remembering now how to sleep well without that addiction to online stuff at night. I mean, I'll let you know how it goes. Let us pray. Because it's right there, it's immediate, right? So, some words are holographic to me. They're so rich and inclusive that I almost smell them. And you guys do some of that too. You know that. They enrich the topic from so many different angles of the senses. And addiction is one of those words. The disturbingly misguided practice of forcing a Kundalini experience or using drugs and alcohol to achieve a desired level of experience out of the norm sometimes results in the experience, but only of a physical nature. Do you get that? The drugs and alcohol, what does it affect? Your body, your emotions, and your mind. It's 100% spiritual. So you're not going to be able to use those physical things to reach real spiritual highs. Do you get that? No true enlightenment comes from forcing the mind. Enlightenment's a virtue of the soul. It involves, as does one's point of evolution evolve, so does psychic ability. Your psychic ability will increase as you evolve, not the other way around. Neither make light of nor ignore in ignorance the lessons of illness, even small irritations. You know, For those teachers are manifestations of where we're vulnerable to unconscious emotional desire and fatalistic beliefs. If the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, is a great ocean, we all dip our toe in it at times. We can all find ourselves in there somewhere to one or a greater or lesser degree, or we float on it for an entire lifetime. Maybe so. And yeah, we're all in there a bit, an expression of other than the norm to one degree or another, right? We know that. We all have an addiction, even if it's just being addicted to not having one. The decrees we espouse as truth will materialize in one life or another. Addictions cloak those truths, though, and they seek emergence from the depths of misery. Addictions feel miserable because they attach our soul to the earth plane. We're trying to get to the soul, right? And here we are locking ourselves down further and deeper. Those space and time limitations create huge restriction. The thinking about needing more of it phase leading up to the acting out with the addiction demonstrates this misery and feeling and all the physical discomfort. Addictions involve us feeding a lonely process of trying to fill up a bottomless pit with assumed security. So, what happens if we don't recognize our own addictions and we see them mirrored in only other people's behavior? We do that a lot. It's called projection. Our level of denial reflects the discomfort we observe and feel. I notice my own denial when I'm at first observing myself running from an unpleasant feeling, pointing to the acting out in other people. Oh, they're doing that. Well, so are you, Zoli. It never fails to amaze me how insidious this cycle is. The mind, our mind is basic, it's animalistic. It searches for threats and disruptions and it to protect its status quo. And it's serious about it. It's good at it. It has nothing else to do. Most of these neural patterns that we set in childhood control the actions and belief systems of us when we are adults. We are adult children. I like the recovery term of that adult child. It refers loosely to adults acting out with emotion during addictive cycles, but I use it to define all of us. As adults, I mean, the mind doesn't differentiate between what it encoded during those formative years as a kid and what is programmed this morning. It's the same thing. It doesn't do the time thing. If it's there, it's there. We're all adult children in that sense, and the mind will lie to us, but the heart never will. Addictions aren't love. There's no love in addiction behavior. We're running away from these open arms, opening to us God's will, the soul. And we go, no, 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 no. I'd rather feel. I'd rather sense. I'd rather act out. Only the intuitive heart tells the truth. Our gut instinct primarily alerts us to danger, but our intuitive, heart centered responses can prevent irrational reactions. I mean, indeed, this is a learned behavior that Buddhism addresses through practices of meditative awareness and detachment from emotion. I find it really unnerving how easily we protect our perceptions and project them onto other people. It drives me crazy when I do that. And I do that every day, of course, because I'm a people. We seem to fall under a spell of our own making, right? We're just ignorant of the apparent facts or truths outside of the emotional time zone we created. It is that powerful. But have you noticed how quickly that changes? My counselor says that if I feel bad, just wait 20 minutes. And this really is true. We don't always catch that moment of the shift, but we react to the feel better or the feel worse, as if it's just part of the atmosphere. I mean, how much control do we have over the process? I don't know. Consciousness and awareness of the shifts, centering simplifies the complexity of the emotional mood. When I'm adulting, I choose to respond rather than react. But emotion is powerful. Life is messy. Relationships are messy. You come into life to experience the mess. It's just part of the deal. It's like life, like spilling paint all over things. It's just what we do. The elephant in the room pops out of the same closet housing those skeletons, though. All families hide these secrets. All families identify the elephant as somebody else's issue. Here, the projection is personified. It's the old thing about pointing one finger out there at somebody else, you got three pointing back at yourself. You've heard that. Hold my beer, watch this. My husband says that's the beginning of most ER visits. The elephant in the room of alcohol addicted families is really good at holding its breath, releasing that stale air only after an obvious crisis evokes that obviousness, the arcane secrets, the unavoidable exit of those skeletons. And addiction is a family disease. We treat it by hosting the addict onto the elephant and dancing with his addictions into the arm of blame. Oh, look at him. Everything's his fault. But where do we go from here? We can learn and cognate only that which connects us to the emotional, spiritual, or mental cognitive issues. The body physically takes cues from these three energy bodies because it's dense and earthy. When our
Why can't
neutrality,
we get, sorry, why can't we get past blame when it comes to addictions?
because it hurts. It hurts so bad. And the addiction is our best friend. It never says no. And we want to talk to the problem. We do want to figure out what the problem is, but we talk to the problem through the addiction, through the drugs, the alcohol, the food, the online shopping, the sexuality, whatever we're doing that is in a bizarre level of those things. We talk to ourselves using the addiction as the third party. And the emotions are so, so powerful.
So we have to be gentler with ourselves in that way, maybe.
Yeah, and it is a process. We all need help with our addictive behavior. We all do. And you're probably not going to get it with your family of origin, your foo, because families are very addicted to their own stories. Who develop these family engrams. I mean, we got Thanksgiving coming up in this country. Oh boy, you're sitting with Aunt Sarah that you can't stand, or there's Uncle Joe who smells. And then there are these young people who do nothing but be on their phone. We can't seem to stop bringing our own addictive, deviant, avoidant behavior into societal areas that involve everybody else. That's the purpose of higher power. That's the purpose of prayer. To say, there by the grace of God go I. Can I say something kind? Can I just be kind and realize that in one way, as Chase Hughes says, we're all terrified. We really are. And that fear is not knowing what comes next. And so we want to do the addiction to avoid moving into the future. It doesn't help. You're not going to do an addiction to move you into the future. You're going to do it to have sensations about where you are right now, because those things usually worked in the past. When our neutrality, our brains and minds have these neuroreceptors and etheric receptors to be capable of receiving higher intel, that's how we learn and evolve. It is a physical thing, but there are etheric receptors in your astral body. There are etheric receptors from the spiritual aspects that have nothing to do with the physical. And that's a whole nother subject. I'm not going to get into that. But I think what we're doing is avoiding that, because Linda, we're just avoiding. And something can't connect to nothing. Similar to Buckminster Fuller's geodesics, the geodesic dome, the triangles. One point connects to a second. The third point connects all three in a triangle. And then you have one other point and you have a new triangle. This is a grid pattern, and it demonstrates also how we evolve. What we know connects to what's already there. What's newly presented, creating the energy for the encoding of the illuminated energies, is already there. In order to change, to create and accomplish, we need a structural foundation. We can't haphazardly grow without something to connect to. So if you're connecting new things coming in only through your addictions, you won't ever get there because it's not a stable form. It's not a stable structure. We're talking here about your value systems. What are your values? Consider the balancing evolution of reticence as the mind seeks confirmation of this new stuff by connecting it to its foundation. Who really are you? Leaps in consciousness may indeed promulgate these opportunities for the mind to newness. I write often how we become ourselves so slowly. We do it in increments of discoveries and evolution of this soul's journey that we're on in physical form. It's a natural process, and you really can't rush it. You can tend to, but you can't. The temporal aspect of life on earth necessitates that we be physical to experience the emotional uncoveries from our souls and our true selves. There's just no other way. I mean, do we
In that way, addiction would be like a part of the soul's journey.
Well, what we say often in recovery is addiction is relapse is part of recovery. So I know that when I was I had the bad 2 years that I've written about, oh, about 6 months into recovery, I had a relapse. I thought, oh, I can have a glass of wine. Well, yeah, you can have a half a bottle of one too. So I just slipped right back into it. I was in denial. But when I quit doing that the next week, I learned something. And what I learned with addiction, why I don't do any of those things, is that I know what comes next. Something always comes next. And in addiction, when we're acting out and we're involved in our addiction, we don't see there's an end to it. We avoid the end because of what comes next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just part of human nature. I mean, do we really become somebody different when we grow? I think we do, in the sense that growth from childhood to adulthood emphasizes the recognition of our faults. We have to self correct, we have to learn to self correct. And it also involves the successes of who we're aspiring to be. That's exciting. It's really rather simple. The grace of growth allows this thoughtful evolution of recognizing who we are in a world of infinite possibilities with limitation. So this it's kind of cool because in astrology we address this archetype. I think Chiron is really cool. So we address the archetype of Chiron to reveal what we have yet to heal. Chiron in Greek mythology was the centaur who was the healer, who had an injury to his leg or his hip, and he couldn't heal himself, but he could heal everybody else. So wherever Chiron is in your astrology chart, it's our shadow side. It is the blindfold that we have to help ourselves in that area, but other people, we can help them. It's really weird. We're often given family and social situations that shine light on these issues, usually making them worse so that we'll heal. If it gets bad enough, we're going to do something about it. Children may have parents who act out in childish ways. They open those old wounds and require healing. This is past life stuff, folks. And it feels unfair. It feels treacherous and unfulfilling. And what do? We usually retreat to the safe emotional spaces that we learned in childhood. These portals to retreat open a lot of doors, which may invite adulting at some point later in time, but it also can invite an addiction because we freeze because we don't know what to do and we feel pressured. Addiction to me always comes from pressure. We are pressured from society. We're pressured from family. We're pressured from our physical needs. We're not getting our needs met and we just don't know how to do it. So Chiron, once again, he was that wounded healer, the centaur, whose wound caused him not to be able to heal himself, but he could heal others. As kids, we seek security, comfort, answers to unknown fears, and so much more. No parent can be perfect. We've all found that out. You just can't fill all those spaces. That's why I think it does take a village. The child within, the parent, the wounded person seeks its own comfort. It's its own biography. When arguing with somebody else, perhaps we can relate more compassionately if we remember our own wounds. Arguments are actually between the unresolved childhood wounds of each person. We are rarely arguing about what we think we are. We're 50 years old and we're in an argument. It really goes back to our childhood. It's the wounded child because we tend to demand our own ways. Retreating to that childhood safe, happy place when those ways aren't magnified and manifested. I mean, our egos live in the emotional body, right? It drives me crazy. They're never satisfied. They never shut up. Those seven deadly sins and all of their family members force themselves onto the free will of other people through the magnetism, what we pull onto us of pain, fear generated from childhood wounds. I'm telling you, it's all about that. I am amazed at how selfish my own demands are when I'm arguing. Oh my God, I've got to have my way. That's human nature. Got to have our way. The only way to experience physical life is through our own selves, our own perceptions, our beliefs, our interactions with the world. So we really better get on it, right? And learn more about who and what we are to heal a lot of those childhood wounds. Those are implants, emotional implants. They are also in your body. I like to say, consider using EFT, the tapping techniques, body code, something, therapies, something to get it out. You will be freer. We mute our voices and dim our lights when childhood's wounds slam on the brakes during these experiences. Interaction with other people demonstrate our wounds when we dismiss, forcibly act out, or negate our feelings. Our chronic instability to see them and our fear of what will happen, our fear of the result, right? Once they're known and other people see them, that'll thwart our true healing. We do that other thing. The subconscious knows everything. It really does. Your brilliant subconscious, it continually presents clues about our nature and perhaps stimulates our personal curiosity to dig a bit deeper. And that's another cue. What is your subconscious? You have access to it, but you got to get quiet. And I really am convinced that when we argue, that arguing is unfulfilled empty space. It's unfulfilled needs, our fears, the unresolved issues. It is all from the childhood. We know we're most vulnerable when we're asleep and when our conscious mind is discerning. Discernment is mentally at rest. When our conscious discernment is asleep, you are